most people spend their lives trying to find themselves, right? They travel, they experiment, they search for some hidden identity that's supposedly waiting somewhere inside of them. But that idea is backwards. You do not find yourself, right? You build yourself. And the reason most people never realize this is because they believe a lie about who they are. A quiet lie, a subtle lie, a lie that most of us absorb so early on in life we never stop questioning it. The lie is that you are small, that you are separate, that you are just some random organism on a rock in a meaningless universe. A tiny accident of chemistry, right? A spectator inside a machine. And if that were true, then it would make sense that you would doubt yourself. It would make sense that you would hesitate. It would make sense that you feel uncertain about who you're supposed to become. Because if you're just a small, replaceable fragment in a vast, indifferent universe, then how much could you possibly really matter, right? But what if this assumption is wrong? What if the problem is not your motivation, not your discipline, and not your confidence, but actually the story you were given about yourself? From a very young age, most people are suddenly taught a particular view of existence, you could say, right? Through education, through media, through films and television, through cultural narratives, right? The message appears in different forms, but the underlying idea is the same. That you are insignificant, that you are a tiny organism on a tiny planet in an unimaginably large universe, right? And compared to that scale, you're basically nothing. At first, that idea sounds scientific, like objective, even humble. But psychologically, I think it carries a hidden cost. Because when a person truly believes that they are insignificant, something begins to happen to their behavior, right? They hesitate to act, they wait for permission, they seek validation from the outside world, they drift, they become cautious with their ambitions. They lower their standards, and slowly, without realizing it, they begin to live like spectators in their own lives. But there's something interesting. If you go back through the history of human thought across completely different cultures, across thousands of years, you find a very different idea appearing again and again. Right? Different languages, different symbols, different traditions, yet somehow they all seem to point towards the same realization. Man, it is really hard here in South Africa right now. Right, but they point to the same realization. Okay, that separate is not the deepest truth about who you are. In the Luke of Gospel, there's a line that says, "The kingdom of God is within you." Not somewhere far away, not reserved for a select few, within you, like literally in you, right? In ancient Taoist wisdom, right, they express something similar with a different metaphor, obviously. And they say, you are not a drop in the ocean, you are the ocean in a drop. In Hermetic philosophy, right, they say all is one. Another famous one from Hermetic principle says, as above, so below. And even in Kabbalistic tradition, they say that creation is one emanation divided only in appearance. Across ancient traditions, you hear echoes of the same idea, right? You are that. One Father, one God, Father of all, one Spirit, right? What else? Everything is the Tao. Now, this does not mean every tradition is saying the exact same thing, but they're all circling a similar insight. An insight that challenges the modern assumption of total separation. Okay. The insight is that you are not separate from life. You are life becoming aware of itself. You are the universe aware of itself for a brief moment in time through perspective of a human being. Think about that carefully. Everything you have experienced, the entire world you have ever known, has appeared through consciousness, through awareness, through the simple fact that there is something inside you capable of experiencing reality. You are not merely inside the universe observing it. In a very real sense, the universe is experiencing itself through you. Because if there is even a little truth in it, the implications are enormous. Because if you are not separate from life, okay, then you are merely an effect inside it. You are also a cause, right? You are a participant, a creative force within the unfolding process of existence. Not the entire force, but a pretty real one. And if that's the case, then the question of identity changes completely, right? The question is no longer, who am I? What am I becoming? You've ever heard that before, right? When someone's going off to university and they say, I'm trying to find myself, right? So the question is no longer, who am I, right? As if there's some hidden personality waiting to be discovered. The real question becomes, who am I becoming? And perhaps even more importantly, what am I building? Because identity is definitely not discovered. Identity is constructed, okay? Your habits become your identity. Your standards become your character. Your actions are going to become your future. What you do repeatedly becomes who you are. Most people still resist this idea at first because it sounds like a lot of responsibility, and it is. But it's also incredibly freeing, because if identity is built, then you are not trapped by your past. You're not trapped by your upbringing. You're not trapped by the roles other people placed on you, right? You can build yourself deliberately and gradually through what you do every day. You are not merely reacting to life. You are shaping yourself within it. But this raises another question, okay? If identity is built, how exactly do we build it? And why do difficult things seem to transform people so powerfully? This is where something fascinating happens, because modern neuroscience is beginning to confirm something ancient traditions seem to understand pretty intuitively. The human mind becomes stronger through voluntary challenge. When you choose difficult, when you choose to deliberately place yourself under, you could say, controlled stress, something begins to change inside the brain and the nervous system. Chemicals like norepinephrine increase, right? Sharpening attention and sharpening your awareness and alertness, right? Dopamine is also going to be released when effort is directly directed toward meaningful goals, right? Over time, the brain begins to associate challenge with growth rather than danger, and slowly something powerful happens. Your internal narrative is going to start changing, right? Instead of thinking of, I can't handle this, your nervous system begins to learn, I can handle more than I thought, right? And that belief compounds. It becomes confidence. Not the loud kind, not the ego-driven kind, but the quiet, internal, certainty built through experience, right? Because you do hard things. The certainty that you can endure difficulty, right? You can act under pressure, that you can command yourself. This is one reason physical challenge has always played a role in human development. Running, training, martial arts, hard exercise, disciplined routines, even practices like fasting and endurance work, right? These are not just about aesthetics. These are tools for self-command. They train the mind to remain steady while the body experiences stress. They teach the nervous system that discomfort is not the enemy. It's part of growth. Even ancient writers understood this connection, right? Let's have a look at Paul, the apostle, right? He once used the metaphor in... I can't remember the verse. Anyways, I'll put it on the screen. He wrote something along the lines of, I discipline my body and keep it under control, right, to build my spirit. The idea was simple. The body can become an instrument for shaping character, right, through discipline, through restraint, through effort. And I mean, you're not just going to become stronger physically, right? But internally, mentally, spiritually. This is why doing hard things matters. Not because suffering like itself is valuable, but because choose challenges that are hard and they build the person, right? When you repeatedly choose discipline over comfort, you reshape yourself. When you hold your standards, right, when it would be easier not to, you reshape yourself. When you train your body, when you control your impulses, when you keep promises to yourself, right, you're not just completing tasks, you are constructing identity. Consistency. Right, the self is constructed through repeated action, which brings me back to the beginning. Most people spend years trying to find themselves, but the truth is you don't find yourself, right? You build yourself through habits, through standards, and through your decisions, through what you do when no one's watching. If you believe you are insignificant, you will live a small life. If you believe you are powerless, you will behave passively, right? But if you understand that you are not separate from life, if you recognize that you are a conscious participant in creation, then something changes. You stop drifting, you stop waiting, you stop asking permission, and you start building. You begin asking different questions, not who am I, but who am I becoming, right? What kind of person am I constructing with my daily actions? What standards will define my character? What future am I creating through what I repeatedly do? You stop being a spectator in your own life and you become a builder. So there is a deeper realization here. You are not a powerless fragment in a meaningless universe. You are life experiencing itself through a human being. You are the universe aware of itself. You are the divine looking out through human eyes temporarily. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop. And because of that, your life matters. Your choices matter. Your actions matter. Because they shape the person you become day by day, habit by habit, and decision by decision. So the real question, again, is definitely not who am I. The real question is who am I becoming? The answer to that question is written by what you do every single day. So decide what you are building. Decide what kind of person you want to become. Train your body, strengthen your mind, choose difficult things deliberately. God what enters your mind, raise your standard, okay? Act with intention and build yourself piece by piece, right? Because identity, it's not waiting somewhere inside of you. It's being constructed by your actions right now. If this perspective resonated with you at all, and if you want guidance in building that discipline physically and mentally, in strengthening your habits and mindset and your ability to do hard things, then working with me is the way to do that, okay? But whether you work with me or not, remember this. You do not find yourself, okay? You build yourself. And the person you are becoming is shaped by what you choose to do next, right? Link in bio. Choose all.